I'm Nelisa Monakali. I'm South African and I work as the head of the electives and college prep department. I've been in Saudi for 8 years. I work as a language teacher, namely English. That was the first time, the first thing that brought me to Saudi. I graduated and moved to South Korea on a whim to teach English. So I just wanted to do something different. I actually wanted to take time to think or decide what I wanted to do, and I actually fell in love with teaching, especially teaching language, because there's a lot of cultural transfer there. And then moving from South Korea, where I spent 4 years, and into Saudi, it just deepened my love for language teaching. There were a lot, and may I say maybe negative, impressions or comments that people said online especially, but I was lucky enough to have friends that lived here. So I, spoke to them and I got their experiences, and that gave me more comfort to come over. I first came here in 2016 and I started over in Al Hufuf in Al Hassa, and I was working for a large training institute where we worked with major oil and gas companies, right? We were training a lot of their employees who were going to be working on the oil rigs, and so it was a small village town, Al Hassa. The people were friendly, but it really gave me the impression, I had in my mind of this kind of rustic, rural Saudi Arabia with the camels and the date farms and the deserts and the caves. So that was the initial impression. Moving to Riyadh, and it's been, however many years, there's a lot that has changed. Riyadh is where it's at, if I can say that. I've met a lot of people, especially expats, right, who have come to Saudi with whatever preconceptions, and they just stay in their own small bubbles, and they have a really bad time, doing that. So mixing with people, whether it's locals, whether it's other expats in the area, going out to the different places, trying different things, that always helps to kind of bring one out of one's comfort zone. So that's what I continue to do, and of course, the more Saudi changes, the more opportunities there are for doing that. Have I gotten a chance to travel around Saudi? Yes. I mean, it is a beautiful country, and every time I say that, people look at me kind of weird. I'm a fan of the desert sands, the emptiness, traveling around to the different areas. I've been down to Jazan, I've been to Farasan Island, I took the ferry with my car, I've slept out at the beach in Yanbu, of course, Jeddah. I've driven up to Umluj before it became this tourist hotspot. It was still very empty, they were still building. We got on a boat to visit these beautiful islands, and driving up to Al Ula and camping out there, and just even in and around Riyadh, it's an amazing place to be. And I really look at the tourism initiative that the government is doing as something amazing, because there are a lot of beautiful areas in the country. The idea that Saudi has a lot of heritage areas is amazing in and of itself, because people have a very limited view of what the country is. Even today with the internet, where you think people would actually look up things, you have people with a very ignorant or naive view of the area. They don't understand that it's a cosmopolitan city, Riyadh, Al Ula in and of itself, and other heritage sites, It's amazing to learn of the history. A lot of the locals, surprisingly, aren't even aware of the richness in their history. And coming, from a place like South Africa, where we have a very rich cultural tradition and heritage, it's amazing to kind of find similarities here, right? And it's always amazing to kind of learn new things about this place. So it always changes the perspective one might have. living in Riyadh, first of all, you cannot miss out on any of the events that happened, right? From Middle East, I was there the first time it ever came to the country, which was a surprise in and of itself. And then with Riyadh season, they're a lot more family-oriented and maybe more milder things for people to do. There's a lot of stuff to, if you have an active social media account, there are a lot of things where you can just take pictures and videos and, the scenes and that. In terms of the city of Riyadh, I tend to go to more smaller gatherings, like hanging out with my friends, having a barbecue. We call it a braai in South Africa, so we do that a lot. We have a word in my language called Ubuntu, which is, if I can loosely translate it into English, like humaneness, right? The ability to approach others as a human, right? So Saudi has a lot of that. People here are very friendly. Of course, people have questions, but nobody really is kind of taken aback by that anymore. It's such a mixed place that people aren't surprised who you are, where you come from. We came to Wadi Hanifa, where it's one of the projects around the city to get people to socialize more and appreciate the natural surroundings. So we had a barbecue, and I was with some of my friends from South Africa, Palestine, and other parts of the world. The closeness to nature, this idea of going to the desert and just having a barbecue and having tea out in the desert or outside. So I connect to that a lot more because that's my personality. But there's also a very refined taste, and I think it comes with the culture itself. So these lavish kind of coffee date type events, or one thing I'm seeing now a lot more is the arts. It's exploding, so music, concerts, showings, and so on. So there's a lot of rich tradition here. Any similarities between Saudi Arabia and South African culture? A big one is national pride. We are a very proud people. We're proud of who we are, and we are proud of the idea of mixture and coming from different backgrounds, different tribes. And the pride of one's tribe also is very rich in Saudi, so those are the similarities. A love of eating and food, of course, and family gatherings. So those are the two main ones that stick out for me. Honestly, there are very few dishes that stand out as much as kabsa. It's the national dish, if I can say so. The great thing about living in a city like Riyadh is you're exposed to so many other cultural foods, right? So whether it's different levels of Asian food or different kinds of Arabic food, you can find African foods here as well. So the question is, because I see a lot of you are not wearing uniform, should students be required to wear a uniform, and should the school have a dress code? So you will be against and you will be for it, okay? But he gets to start first. You have a minute to think about your response. Less than a minute. Go ahead. What would I say is the toughest part of my job? Dealing with different personalities. You have to be a people person, or you have to be very patient, because people will come at you, different ages, whether it's the students who are young or adults, any colleagues or management. You have to deal with people's stuff all the time. So that is a big requirement. That's what being an educator is about learning how to deal with different levels of people, different backgrounds and cultures. But it's exciting, it's exciting. We have a lot of events organized by the students. We have a podcast that they record. We have a student website, a student-run and created website. We have a digital magazine, and we host events around the school. So for me, learning, the idea I've always had, I hated school growing up because school was so boring. So coming into this space and being able to change that, right, to make school more exciting, to make school more engaging, and it's actually relevant because the students that I interact with, they're into filming or website design or journalism or whatever careers, so to show them that there are a world of possibilities. So that's what excites me about being an educator. We had a meeting with Dr. Majid. He's the school superintendent, and he moved to the school earlier this year. So as someone who is a senior at the school, he's very supportive of what I do. Part of my job is dealing with children's futures, and the career possibilities, linking them to colleges and career guidance counselors. Then we moved on to the scene where we were recording a podcast. So the Alfosan Student Council is something that I chair, and of course I work with a lot of talented students and people at the school who are supportive. So having their voices heard on the podcast, they do a lot of cool stuff as well. Now, you also recently went to China. Now, how was it? I remember you missed quite a lot of your classes.
Yeah, it was a unique experience to me because it was my first trip out of Saudi Arabia.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so
okay.
it was to China. I went there for work. I didn't went as a tourist. We had a conference, the Saudi-China conference in China, in Beijing. I was there to represent our company, Jazz, as a trainee, as an internship, and I was the youngest there. Yeah, and I represented not just the country, also the school.
One of the students went on a trip to China. You know what I mean? He traveled with the Saudi embassy, and that was impressive. Another student won a global competition in language. He came third representing the country. We've had students, and they all come from different backgrounds. Saudi Arabia, from different areas, Pakistan, Sudan, Americas, and the UK and that. So it's always exciting to hear what they have to say and their experiences of Saudi, from that age. And then we moved on to the IT lab where I was with the magazine department, and we were going through the school magazine. So it's a digital magazine that they initiated themselves. They write the articles themselves. They take the media and the photos, and they design and structure it. So it's exciting to see how they think and how they interpret their lives in Riyadh and Saudi Arabia. Sports is a very big part of what we do at the school. We were able to start a soccer team, or football, some people call it, handball team and basketball teams. So it's exciting to see how the students themselves can become involved in those type of activities. After that, we headed to the gym. Now, it's something I'm trying to get back into a lot more because I'm finding that it helps with the stress of dealing with, living in a very complex city like Riyadh. But it's also good, yani, for stress, de-stressing and that. I meet a lot of people at the gym too, make friends, and I enjoy the space. Yani, I enjoy it as an outlet. I like that particular gym because it's open 24 hours, so I can go at any time. My sleeping schedule here is a little bit weird, so just normally as a community, people are up till the wee hours of the morning, you know, and that's a time where you could either go or during a lull like today. Key of succeeding in Saudi Arabia, I mean, first, it's the understanding of what do you mean by success. You know, there are people who are fleeing from war-torn countries and they're finding refuge in Saudi Arabia, so that is a success in and of itself. There are people who come here from impoverished countries and they work migrant labor jobs and they're able to start a business or work somewhere. That is success. And then there are people who are in this type of industry in a country like Saudi Arabia, which that too is a type of success, right? So the understanding of what success means to you, I guess, is the key. And that's a long-winded answer, but it requires the ability to be open and to question, you know, what you're doing, you know, with your life and what you're doing here. You know, why are you here? If you're not comfortable here, if you're not happy, what is it that makes you want to continue, right? And everyone has different reasons. Being a black African in Saudi Arabia, which isn't really a big thing, but it is kind of a thing because there are so many misconceptions people have about Africans to begin with, but also South Africans in particular. The fact that I teach English here, I mean, it's not something unique to me because there are a lot of people who teach a variety of subjects. But you know, working with an American curriculum and having to learn, you know, things like that, a different educational system where people have aspirations here to go study abroad, right? That is a unique experience, and how people think around education. A lot of money is spent on education in this country alone. Their, you know, parents are very much involved in the careers of their, you know, kids. So that's a unique experience because I've learned a lot just from being in this industry, right? What do I think has been the best thing to happen to me in Saudi Arabia? The people that I've met here, my friends who have become my family, so to speak, and just meeting the people here, right? Because it's one thing reading about the country or hearing about the country or watching it from movies. It's quite another to actually be here and interact with people from different walks of life and different levels of society even, you know, so that's a major thing for me. I love the fact that it's pretty much a 24-hour city, Riyadh that is. People are active at different hours of the night. I would miss, you know, the convenience of things here, you know, from, I don't know, the experiences going out and using, it's so digitally advanced, which a lot of people are unaware of. You can do everything from your phone. It's a pretty nice life living here. It's become a second home because I've been here for such a long time. What is something about Saudi Arabia that I'd like to tell my family and friends about? It's worth the visit. It's worth getting to know the actual culture and history and tradition. And it's worth trying it out for the fun and entertainment side of it. A lot of people think it's a serious place. It is. And as a foreigner coming here, that can be scary. But it is pretty much a very fun place to live. There's a lot of things, you know, to do here, regardless of what your appetites are. You know, you can find a lot, especially in a place like Riyadh, right? And you can be yourself. in a lot of ways. Molweni, ndinguNelisa Monakali Fikelepi and ndisuka eMzantsi, sibiza iSouth Africa xa sithetha, and ndiphuma from eKapa, you know. Ndihlala apha eRiyadh, eSaudi Arabia, and ibinto emandi uba ndibe lapha kule program, ndenze le show and ndithethe nabantu about impilo yam apha eSaudi Arabia and about being a South African ehlala apha ne-experiences zam. So i-message yam uba ndingatsho is that if uhlala ungumntu ojonga phambili naphezulu, awusoze ungaphumeleli ebomini.